Today, Europe's 500 million consumers are increasingly concerned about how their food is produced. This includes the welfare of the animals that they eat. And not only land animals, but fish too. Governments and retailers are taking notice. In this film, we're going to look at the response of the UK's salmon farming industry, what changing attitudes mean for aquaculture producers in Asia, and how improving animal welfare can actually increase profitability.
There is a real tangible benefit to looking after your fish well. In order to maintain the welfare of the salmon, you've got to get every little bit of the production system right. The genetics of the animal, the environment of the animal, the feed of the animal, the disease control, all these things have to be right. And if you get all these little bits right, then you produce a high quality product.
Founded in Scotland in 1965, Marine Harvest is the largest producer of farmed salmon in the world. With its UK operations based along the west coast of Scotland and on the Western Isles, it produces high-quality salmon sold as whole fish.
I've been a salmon farmer for 35 years, and in that time the industry has changed dramatically. I think when the industry started, there were no rules and regulations, no standards. But since that time, as the industry has moved on, the industry has become more complex and more concerned about issues like animal welfare.
Well, the RSPCA is the world's oldest animal welfare charity. It's also the world's largest welfare charity. It receives about £120 million a year from public donations in the support of animal welfare. Freedom Food is a wholly owned subsidiary of the RSPCA, and we're there to implement their standards onto farmed animals, animals that we use for human consumption that we're going to eat. And we're also there to promote those products in the retail stores so that the shoppers can identify them when they go to do their weekly shop.
Sainsbury's is this retailer in the UK with over 1,000 stores, 150,000 colleagues, annual sales of over £22 billion. And it was established in London with a single store in Covent Garden over 140 years ago. Every week, about 19 to 20 million customers shop at Sainsbury's.
Up until about 2007, we had been talking about Freedom Food and how important that we thought it was, but really what would the benefits be to our business and to the fish and to how we actually perform as farmers. We were unsure about that. One of the fundamental issues in Freedom Food is that your stocking density changes. So that is the number of fish per cubic metre will be reduced. Previously we sat around about 20 kilograms a cubic metre, but now we're down at 15 kilograms a cubic metre. But to maintain our tonnage, you would need to buy more pens, nets and moorings. So that was the leap of faith in the belief that, yes, fish performance, welfare would be much better as a result of lower stocking densities.
Over time we've seen benefits in reducing those densities in terms of improvements in fish survival, more efficient growth and better quality. So at the end of the day, there's been a net economic gain from investing in that system.
I don't think any of the farmers and any of the management in Marine Harvest would say it was the wrong thing to do. Far from it, quite the opposite, because I think we have got this discipline now in our business. We've got this standard that we use on a daily basis, and there's no argument about it. We all know what we're doing. Whereas before, you might have had some farmers who were thinking, well, I believe this is the way it should be done, and other farmers saying the opposite. But now we've got the standard that we run with, and we're audited against, and that's an important aspect too.
We've done some research with partners in the European Union, which has actually looked at changing things on the farm to improve welfare and how that impacts right through the farm and through the production chain to the retailers and the consumers. And actually in some cases it costs you money, and in some cases it saves you money. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a business call. It's a business decision. You've got to decide whether this is in the long-term interest of your business or not.
The move to Freedom Food certification for salmon was voluntary. It wasn't enforced by any external agency or the government. It was really done because we could see that that was the best for the fish. And it gave us a standard to communicate to our customers, to give them the security that the fish that they are buying has been provided for and grown properly.
Freedom Food was asked to come into the salmon industry by the salmon producers. They didn't come in and enforce themselves on them, and the trout producers have just done exactly the same thing. The trout industry have just gone to Freedom Food and asked them if they will provide the standards for the trout production in the UK, because they also see that it has a market advantage for them.
The reason Sainsbury's adopted the RSPCA Freedom Food Standard, as opposed to some of the other standards that are available for aquaculture, is that Freedom Food Standard relates specifically to welfare, and that gives us a very strong message to give our customers in relation to how our fish are produced from a welfare perspective.
Over the last 10 years, salmon farmers and technology equipment manufacturers have worked together to reduce the manual handling of salmon stock.
Manual handling of fish is far, far less today than it was 20 years ago. And today, a lot of it is pumping, using suction pumps to deliver fish onto well boats or to grade the fish on grading machines.
Lowering stress levels in the fish is one of the main objectives.
If the animal's stressed, badly stressed or repeatedly stressed through the production cycle, it'll be more susceptible to diseases, so it might not survive, but also it won't grow as quickly, it perhaps won't eat as well, won't convert that food into flesh, and so you get poorer productivity.
Increased mechanisation also affects the number of staff needed to operate the farms.
I have 5 guys working with me, so myself plus 5 guys who look after the fish, and over a 2-year cycle each man will produce somewhere in the region of 800 tonnes each. We farm 1 million salmon here today, and if we go back 20-25 years, there would be maybe 12 guys on the site producing somewhere in the region of 300, maybe 400 tonnes per man over the 2-year cycle. When a Freedom Food auditor arrives on my farm for an audit, you'll first spend maybe 2 or 3 hours looking at all the paperwork, which includes the stocking densities, the mortality trends, the growth, how many fish and how many kilos are in each pen. You also look at all the transfer records from when the fish came from the freshwater lochs. You'll also inspect the medicine records, and once we've done that, we'll go into the pens and we'll look at each pen in detail. We'll go around, we'll walk around each cage, we'll check the nets, we'll check the bird nets, we'll check the feed spreaders are in the correct location. He's also interested in if we're using cameras to check the quantity of feed going into the cage is correct. He'll check the moorings as well, a visual check of each mooring to ensure that there's no danger of stock loss. So the auditor will spend most of the day in the farm, and will spend maybe the last 20 minutes going over any issues that he's raised.
So we've got the Freedom Food inspectors coming in, but we can also have the RSPCA livestock inspector come in unannounced. So he will come in to make sure that the Freedom Food assessor has been doing his job. So it's like a double check. So it's a very, very thorough standard indeed.
We have an involvement in trying to get science into best practice, really. That's what we're all about.
Producers in Asia have to be aware that welfare is an issue for Western consumers. It's not a recent issue, it's something that has been an issue for a long time. And although Western consumers are not particularly aware of fish welfare, they are aware of animal welfare. And if you want to protect your markets, you've got to make sure that you don't get any negative publicity regarding the welfare of the animals.
Much like the public mood in the UK 20 years ago, consumer attitudes in Asia are changing. The message is, don't wait for governments to regulate. The time is right for the fish industry, producers, and the private sector in Asia to make animal welfare a business priority.
In Thailand, we realized about the animal welfare so much. So we try to make a regular to do how to kill the animal.
In Vietnam, that is quite a different here. The main reason, I think, is the different culture. We did not care a lot about the animal welfare.
I have to say, in the past, we don't realize about the welfare too much. But now, everything changed. In the future, in Thailand, I think we have to take action about the animal welfare. We can get the healthy fish and peaceful fish in the market.
Now the animal welfare is also the important issues in aquaculture in Vietnam.
With more than 60% of Scottish salmon now Freedom Food certified, this can be seen as one model that has been successfully implemented by the Scottish salmon industry. Currently in Asia, There is little interest in increasing welfare standards for farmed aquatic animals. Experts believe that for things to change, there needs to be a separate approach for each fish species.
Developing appropriate welfare-friendly production methods is something that has to be done within the industry. You can't just take the salmon standards and apply them to tilapia or pangasius. That just won't work. There has to be work done actually within the industry to develop sustainable, economically viable options for the Asian industry.
Aquaculture has been a great success story for the RSPCA standards and Freedom Food, because we can show that there is an economic benefit to the high welfare. We can show that the fish survive. We're not buying fish just to have them to die. When they grow more evenly. They've got a better quality product. It lasts longer on the shelf. And we know from what the chefs say to us that that will cook better, that it will eat better, that it tastes better. And all in all, it's a good all-round package, good story.
And it might seem a bit odd that fish are expected to have welfare conditions, but in fact it's absolutely vital, and we've learned that. And I would just ask that perhaps you consider the welfare standards and how that might better your business, because it's certainly done a lot for us, and I'm sure it can be applied elsewhere in the world.